It's official. Arsenal have pulled off the three-peat of second-place finishes. This is not that kind of gooner, an Arsenal podcast, and we're coming to you after Arsenal's 1-0 win against Newcastle on Sunday at home. And like I kind of alluded to, it clinched second place. It clinched a spot in next season's Champions League campaign. So no nervy end to the season. We get to go to Southampton, not worrying about any surprises, any upsets, any difficult moments that bite us in the ass. It's all said and done. Players can just have a little bit of a free hit, if you will. And Aaron Ramsdale will be in goal, so it will be a free hit indeed. I love you, Aaron. Sorry. Anyway, so yeah. We're going to get into kind of like the higher, like the 1,000-foot view points about the Newcastle game and maybe a couple other things, depending on how long John here can go for. Because John, just like Declan Rice was on Sunday, is playing hurt. And with that, I'll introduce John, who you can follow on Twitter at 305cast, and you can follow on Blue Sky at Yellow Ribbons. John, how are you doing, my friend?
But yeah, good. I had like a real bad cold for like a week, and then now it's that like trail end of it where it's like, I don't know what's going on, coughing and nonsense, and my voice is gone. But yeah, playing injured, like Timber too. Yeah. Apparently, from what we heard, I don't know if you saw that news.
Yeah, ankle surgery. So everyone's getting surgery this year.
Like to do the season that he had on the back of that ACL injury is actually like insane. And I guess we could talk a little bit about his, everyone's getting surgery. It's like that Oprah meme where like everyone gets a car, but like, or a house or whatever, but like everyone gets a friggin' tendon repair somewhere.
It's like, I saw Tim Stillman from the Arsenal Vision pod say earlier today that the thing about injuries is that they beget more injuries. And that's kind of the thing that we've fallen prey to it several times over the years, but this season especially, right? Because you have, a right back with Timber. You have Timber playing all these minutes on the back of an ACL because White, is out with the knee injury. And that, of course, leads to Timber being overplayed because you don't really have any options there because Tomiyasu's also injured. And, so it's tricky in that respect, and then of course that's led to Saliba maybe having a hamstring injury because he had to play all the minutes at right center back because Timber was busy playing all the minutes at right back. White was busy playing all the minutes at right back when Timber was out. Tomiyasu is nowhere to be found. So and that can be said the same for several other positions on the pitch for Arsenal. So. It's annoying. Thankfully, it's we've got one game left and then the season's over, so it's not like it's going to be a massive issue for us. But yeah, I mean, you know what? This is maybe a good place to just kind of talk about. There's this discussion happening online about how someone went back and fished out the clip of Jurgen Klopp from 2023. Talking about how, Arsenal are playing great football, yada, yada, but what if they were missing 5 players the way that Liverpool were in that season? They finished 5th, and it's turning into a whole comparison thing because Arteta has said a couple times now, and I do want to stress, like, he's being prompted to talk about this thing. Like, people are asking him what role of injuries played. It's not like, he's been asked what he felt about Saka's goal or something. He's like, but the injuries, this is something he's being led to talk about. But Arteta's mentioned injuries a couple times, and he's been dragged through the mud for it. And now here's Klopp mentioning injuries as being a reason why his season was derailed. And maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but the reactions seem to have been way more forgiving than it was. So, I mean, do you see a difference between our situation and Liverpool's a couple of seasons ago? Do you think there's some hypocrisy going on here, whether that's from the media or like one of the fan bases, or is it about the same to you?
I mean, we finished higher than them, so
true.
Yeah. So even look, we Arsenal are treated differently than other teams, particularly like your Man Cities and your Chelseas and your Uniteds and Liverpool. Like we're just like the annoying stepchild that everyone seems to dislike and like to talk shit about constantly in the media. So it's not surprising that that kind of thing is swept under the rug or is just not kind of addressed. It's just the way that it's been. And there's a whole history as to why Arsenal, and you could trace it back to, most in the modern times, Arsene Wenger and how he approached the game and what people thought about him. And, there's a lot of underlying conversations there that are uncomfortable probably too. But at the end of the day, we are, as a club, treated differently in the media than other clubs. And it's so obvious. And like the narratives around it. And then you see this overcompensation to try to make up for it by some people trying to point out, oh, well, if it was this club, we'd be saying this and this, but why is it not Arsenal? That becomes like the counterpoint. That what we're having this discussion right now is the counterpoint, which is to me evidence of the issue. So yeah. So it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how we get treated, but that's a whole nother story. Well, I guess that is not a whole other story. That's exactly the question you're asking me. So yeah, I think we get treated differently, especially than your Liverpools and your Uniteds. And I mean, I don't know, man. Just imagine if we were in like United's position right now. Forget it. Yeah, forget it. And then watch United lose to Spurs somehow. And then Spurs win their first trophy ever, pretty much. And then see how. Just imagine if I guess it's a little different if it were us because of the rivalry, but still, it's not. It wouldn't be. It's not going to be the same. So
I mean, I'm not looking forward to that game, and it's not even because I care about the Europa League or anything. I just know the rest of that weekend is going to be Spurs or United were shit in the league and they won more trophies than Arsenal did, and this is kind of why I don't have much respect for the Europa League currently, because it's going to be used as a stick to beat us with, even though that's just not a competition that is a priority for us
at all.
I mean, it's a competition that we'd have to actively be worse to get into. And so that's not a measuring stick that I personally use, but I mean, you're right. We get kind of viewed differently, compared to other clubs. And I think it's mostly just because clicks.
I think there's a lot of history there. So, I mean, you could trace it back to different reasons and different like genesis as to why that's the case. You could talk about foreign players that Arsene Wenger brought in and how that kind of shook things up a little too much for people. You can have conversations about race, things like that, about how uncomfortable conversations about xenophobia in England at the time. There's a lot of, I think, reasons why, and I don't know if there's any one particular one that stands out more, but historically we're the club that people love to hate, and that was before Wenger too. Like George Graham, I mean, he said, he said they love to hate us, and he embraced that. That was like his whole ability to motivate his players were like everyone against us. So it's not something new to Arsenal fandom, but now with social media and stuff, it's so blatant though. Before you wouldn't get it all the time because there wouldn't be so many sound bites and interviews and clips and this, but now you just see so much, and you see more instances of other clubs getting treated differently than Arsenal do across social media, across the written media, across Twitter and all whatever.
Yeah, it's I think just because of the world that we live in, where everything is fed to you in 140 characters or less and 30-second clips, and that's all you have unless you actually are willing to do your own research. That's all you have to form your perception on things. Like I've had conversations with people who are just like, yeah, Arteta only ever complains. And it's like, no, you only ever see clips from like Haters TV or ESPN FC or whoever of Arteta saying, 45 words on something out of 1,000 from a press
Yeah.
conference.
Did you
And
ever
that's
did you ever see an interview with Jurgen Klopp? You want to talk about complaining? The guy was a pro complainer.
yeah,
Yeah, but no, it's not that. It's just it's funny. It's
best of the
always so
best.
funny and quirky and German and like or whatever. It's like I
Also,
guess he's not
also
German, but
Jose
you get it.
Mourinho. Jose Mourinho literally was waiting in the garage after games for referees to to confront them.
Yeah,
And he did complaining during his press conferences as well. But what people will tell you is that those guys get a pass because they won things. And I don't see how that's relevant. Like, complaining is complaining. And so, it, I like Arteta's also won things. I like, if Pep Guardiola is to be taken at his word from his recent comments, Arteta's won 3 trophies in 5 years, which is a pretty solid return if you look at it like that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of bad faith going on there. And when people just kind of wrap up this point, when people kind of talked about how Arteta is such a unlikable character, it's because they're seeing him say, yeah, injuries are why, or he'll say injuries are a big part of why we didn't do as well as we wanted to this season, and then that's it, end of clip. And they just keep on scrolling, and they're like, wow, that Arteta guy's a real asshole.
yeah,
you know
yeah. But that's the
yeah,
thing. Like he's being asked questions and he's answering them. He's not. And like I feel like there's a fine line between coming up with a reason for something happening and then trying to rationalize or justify it happening based on that reason. There's it's like a distinction, a small with a difference. It's a distinction with a difference. So you can say, oh, I got into a car accident because I ran a red light and I was speeding and all of that. I'm not justifying why it happened. I'm giving an explanation for why I got into an accident. If I was like, oh, it's not hey, whatever, like I got into a car accident because I was tired, so it's not my fault, like then we're talking about excuses. We're talking about trying to justify or rationalize it. I don't think there's any justification or rationalization going on with Arteta. It's more of like an autopsy, like a post-mortem, where you're just factually stating the different factors that contributed to a certain outcome. And I think that, especially in the media, that gets conflated all the time. When you're saying, oh, we've had injuries, it goes, oh, you're just blaming it on the injuries. It's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault. Like, you would have won, but for the injuries. And it's like, well, no. I'm just giving you an explanation as to what happened. Like, I figured you'd want that insight from someone who's closer to it than you are. That's why you're asking me the question as a manager. Like, you want to know my side of the story, like based off of my very, very inside information. And I'm telling you, part of it's injury. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, no, I mean, they're asking him, what do you think went wrong this season? He's like, oh, like injuries, and we had a couple bad refereeing calls against us, and I think he's also kind of excuses, like, and he's also, and like, he is saying, like, at multiple times this season, like, we didn't do the job in the boxes in certain matches, and I think he's also dropping subtle hints that people upstairs need to make some signings, need to help him out, which
subtle.
I mean, it's not.
Our owner like literally wrote an expose in the match program about how he's going to invest because of
we will invest.
Yeah. So it's not so subtle.
Well, yeah, and Arteta, like yesterday. Oh, I want to find the exact quote here, because yesterday they're talking to him and they're like, "Are you gonna, are you looking forward to a rest or something like that?" And he was just like, "Here we go." Arteta said, finish the season, go to the beach, enjoy a few days, and make sure the ones upstairs, they do what they have to do.
There you go.
And
that's
it's
not very subtle, man. That's by the players. We know what we need. So
yeah. And I guess that's I guess my question is, how do you think the club will respond to that? I don't want to ask the obvious question of like, oh, like, what do you take from those comments? Like, it's pretty clear.
Club is going to respond by recalling Fabio Vieira on loan and putting him as number 10 starting next season. No, I like literally that would be the most Arsenal thing ever, right? So, but I think legitimately, I don't know. We're kind of in new territory. I don't think we've ever been this strident about, at least from like the higher ups and the mouthpieces, about doing something big. You know, it's always kind of been teasing or saying, oh yeah, you know, be excited or this, like vague. Now it's like the owner of the club is putting out a statement in the match program about investment. You know, the manager is passing the ball directly to them with no unsure words. The entire footballing, and in some cases not footballing world, and I say that because I have friends who are just getting into soccer and football, and they're like, oh, so Arsenal need to make some big signings. And I'm like, how do you know that? And it's like, and it's like, oh, I just what I, you know, it's like osmosis. Like the world knows that Arsenal need to do X, Y, Z. Like there's no more room for gaslighting anyone. Like we can't, like maybe before, like you know, there's certain things that you need to build and this and that. That's gone. There's no more. They can't do it.
Also, there's no like PSR excuse, right? Like
Right.
last summer, you're seeing journalists come out and basically say, "Oh yeah, like we're a little bit close on PSR restrictions, blah blah blah."
You're so
But
far
throughout this season, those same journalists have been like, "Oh yeah, there's no PSR issues. Arsenal could spend quite a lot of money if they wanted to."
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of goes to what I'm saying about like there's like the roads are narrowing down. Like all the different forks are starting to like get closed off, and it's coming down to one stretch of highway. And that's the only way that you can go eventually. Like all roads lead to death, you know. Well, this is it. Like all roads lead to signing some players because we need it. We've needed it for a while, and there's no more excuses. Like do the thing, you know.
I'm going to take a charitable view of how we've approached recruitment this season. And this isn't necessarily how I feel about it. This is what I hope the reason is, right? I hope that we have been finagling financially and kind of scrounging up resources and like kind of keeping the powder dry in anticipation of this summer. And now that I know it doesn't make the most sense, and that's why I don't.
It does. Okay. I'm not saying I completely see the tea leaves there. The reason I interrupted you there was because like this is the same thing that we were talking about last season, about last summer. Like this same, like, okay, fine. All right. You know, things didn't pan out the way you wanted in the market, whatever. You could only sign Raheem Sterling on deadline day and you didn't even pay him. Like we couldn't get a left winger, you know, okay, whatever. But like, that's gone now. It's no more. Yeah. You're right.
So, yeah. And so what I hope is happening here is because you have Arteta making these statements, right? And this is the same Arteta who constantly is saying he's in alignment with the board, right? So maybe he's just coming out and saying things that he knows they're going to do. Maybe Josh Kroenke is so confident that we will invest this summer because there are things laid, or there are plans laid, there are things, you know, ready to go. Maybe we are going to make another Rice-esque signing in the summer and we'll spend 350 million because we did not all that much the last two windows.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I hope. That's not what I think.
I tend to not only hope, but probably I would venture into thinking that that's what's going to happen. But my only concern is it, and this comes to like whether you have faith in the manager and their selections and stuff. Remember, we were kind of blindsided by Edu leaving and things like that. Whether this new guy is talking a big game, and like, I just hope it's that they thought that through. That what's his name? The guy that we brought in,
Berta,
right? I hope that it's not like, we're gonna get this guy and this guy and this guy. You know, like basically what you would do to swing around your credentials at a new job. to try to, give yourself some kind of like legitimacy, in a new role. And this is it. Now the eyes are on you in big part based off of what we need and things like that. So presumably they brought him on for a reason. I'm just worried that, and this is this is cynical of me, but I'm worried if all of this hype is something that Berta has been driving and like sold Arteta on his vision.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be like make or break as to like, because remember, we can go make $100 million signing, but if it's like Pepe, like, I don't know if I don't know how this club recovers from something like that. Like, I think that does a lot of damage. So so I get this idea of, and again, very cynical of me. I'm just wondering where this optimism and this, like, I hope it is what you're saying. I hope there's this plan and that it's a good one and that they've thought it through and they've had their targets and they have their backups and that they know exactly what we need and that they execute it efficiently. I don't want to wait until the end of the day. Like, that's another thing. I want to see at the end of the day, I want to see some movement early on in the window. I'm okay with waiting until the end if we get the right person. Okay. But that would not be ideal for me for many reasons, including squad assimilation, things like that, being able to do preseason. Those are very important stuff. So whereas, like, yeah, sure, there's still a player. We need to have identified and gotten stuff done as early as possible. I understand that's not always possible, right?
Yeah.
You have contract situations, you have, things that are moving variously, but variably, but we've at least identified certain ones like Zubamendi, right?
I think Zubamendi is just about wrapped up.
Yeah, that's what all so like that's that makes sense. If we're starting to see signings like that, we're fixing things that we need to fix. I'm with you. I have hope. I do. But I do have a little cynicism there sprinkled on.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I think I have a little as well. Like, I'm ready. I'm mentally prepared for this summer window to end with a Sterling-esque signing again. Right. Yeah. But so Berta gives me some optimism for two reasons. Number one, he had a track record of bringing in like big signings for Atletico Madrid. Not all of them panned out, right? Because this is a guy who signed Joao Felix to Atletico Madrid, but for the most part, he has a track record of getting those big deals over the line, and that's just not something Edu was particularly adept at. And the second thing is, Berta started out as an accountant, and so I think there's kind of a level of like financial nuance to how he operates that Arsenal might have found attractive in terms of like, figuring out ways to like pay transfer fees in installments or pay salaries and like kind of structure things. Exactly. Yeah. Well, hopefully without pulling levers, but like structure things so that like, we can be a little clever with how we spend our money. So I think those are kind of like the two things about Berta that are really attractive. But yeah, I don't think there's much of an excuse to not get most of our signings in before like late in the window.
I think so. Right. It needs to be that way.
Yeah, because there's no international tournaments. There's a Club World Cup, but like I don't see that being a big enough deal where like
it would stop us from doing the business we need to do early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if we are, I think Real Madrid are in the Club World Cup. I think so. Yeah. If Real Madrid are over in the States playing in the Club World Cup and we go after Rodrigo, right? Like, I don't think Rodrigo is going to be like, oh, well, like I have to wait until the end of this tournament because it's really important to me before I go talk to Arsenal. I could be wrong about that, but like, I don't think it's the same as like the Copa America. You know what I mean?
Real Madrid, Manchester City, Flume, Chelsea, Al Ahly, and Inter Miami. Clubs will feature 32 elite teams from every continent, including giants.
Like, Ahly's going to get smacked, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, you're not a fan?
They are the arch nemesis of my dad's favorite team in Egypt,
which is
Zamalek.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Although
Good.
apparently Zamalek has had some problems recently. But yeah, I think we're going to be smart about it. Berta seems very aggressive. I think, was it the Sun or someone?
There's a lot of teams.
Uh,
Oh, here we go.
report.
Oh,
Sorry.
go. Sorry, I'm looking at who's playing in there.
Yeah. Um, I think it was the Sun reported that there are sources through, kind of like who are well informed of this kind of thing, who have said that whenever they have talked to players, Arsenal have already been there.
Mm.
And like apparently like people are impressed or taken aback by how aggressive we have been this time around. So again, like that might mean nothing. Or maybe that's a sign of things to come. But um hopefully we've taken a step towards being able to sign maybe the Rice-esque signing we could make this summer, which I think is Alexander Isak. Um, just I need, yeah.
Injuries now, though. Are we concerned? The
No,
guy,
are you talking about this tweet going around saying that he
is
missed
that not?
25% of?
Is he not injured again?
He is, but like I saw someone say that he missed 25% of his games this season, and that's not true at all. He
No,
missed
I was just looking at injured. I know that he does get injured a little.
a little bit. I mean, he's I think
Let
he
me see.
played in
Hold on.
41 of 47 games this season. I'm not sure about his minute count.
I'm looking right
Um
now. All right, I'm on transfer market. So, oh, come on. It looks like he missed in terms of games, including international games this season, 7, 8, 9. Not too bad.
okay.
Yeah.
How many minutes does he
So,
have?
let's see. I don't know. That's beyond my. Hold on, let me see. Alexander.
Hold on.
All right, here we go. All right. Oh no, that's injury history again.
He has 3,234 minutes this season.
All right, that's pretty good.
And
yeah, it looks like he missed 9 games this season, 12 games last season, 18 games the season before that, 5 games before that, 15 games before that, 8 games. So he looks like he's going to lose between probably, 5, maybe 10 games a season. It could go up to 20, depending. Obviously, that's any of this works, but it does look like he's every single season, at least.
Yeah.
Some portions of it, but that's pretty normal. I think. I don't think there's nothing crazy about this. So I take it back. He is injured again, though. But
yeah,
maybe we can knock some money off.
I mean, fingers crossed he doesn't play against Everton, because if Everton can beat Newcastle next week, then we might be looking at Newcastle finishing outside the Champions League, in which case I think Isak will leave.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
So Alexander, if you're listening to this, rest up, buddy. You don't need to go back out there.
Yeah, it's all good. It's just Everton.
But yeah, yeah, they'll be fine without you. They'll be fine. But I think the thing to take away from Isak's injury history there is he's not a guy who you can just play over and over and over and over again. Like, that's someone that you've got to rotate a little bit. And I think while Arteta has a bit of an excuse this season, given, the injury situation he's been dealing with, I think also there have been instances where maybe he could have done a better job pulling some guys out of the firing line.
Right.
But so if you do sign Isak, right, you don't roll that guy out against, Ipswich. I know we're not going to play Ipswich next year, but just, like that level of team.
Let Havertz kill Ipswich.
Exactly. Play Havertz at center forward for the first round of the FA Cup and the first couple games of the Carabao Cup and stuff like that. Or, if we end up playing Lokomotiv Moscow or something in the Champions League next season, and we have a game against Chelsea or City coming up at the weekend, maybe Isak doesn't have to play that game. You know what I mean? So I think it's just about managing his minutes, making sure that we're not throwing him into situations where he probably isn't needed. But yeah, I'm not concerned generally about Isak being some crazy injury prone player in that regard.
Right, right. Okay. Well, I
Um,
hope you're right. I hope we
yeah,
sign him, and I hope you're right.
yeah. Fingers crossed. We'll see. Everton, over to you, as well as Chelsea and City and Forest and Aston Villa. You guys have to do your jobs too. Um, in terms of our game against Newcastle,
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, going into it, did you feel that this was a particularly important game?
No.
No?
No. I knew
Why
that
not?
we needed. I don't know. I knew that. I felt like we were going to get the point. Like we were going to finish top four. I didn't think that was going to be a big deal.
Hmm.
Um, I just wanted to beat Newcastle, so that's why I was into the game because I don't like
Hmm.
them, and they're dirty players, and I like beating Newcastle.
Yeah.
So that was why I was invested more than we need to finish top four or wherever. Because I felt like we were going to do that one way or another by the last two games of the season,
Yeah.
and especially with some of the other results that we saw in the Premier League, like that kind of helped us out. So, um, and if you finish fourth or second, like I mean, I don't know, does that make a difference? Like really? I guess maybe in terms of like how you seed in Europe, or I don't know. I don't know how those rules work, to be honest. So
Yeah. I I think it was important to beat Newcastle and finish second,
yeah,
just because I think it's more psychological than anything, right? Because
we're
like
going into that game, we were tied with them in terms like Eddie Howe and Arteta. I think going into this game, they had the exact like even in terms of wins, draws, losses. Like we've drawn the same, we've won the same, and we've lost. Like there's been no like advantage one way or another. And now the
really.
momentum, I think, swung our way after that win.
Um yeah, I think so I think for me, right, like we'd already lost to Newcastle 3 times, and I think the messaging ahead of the game would have been do not lose a fourth time this season.
Also,
Like
score
just
against them. I mean, I think we had one goal. This was our first goal in like
yeah,
52 attempts on their goal, like in the last like whatever times we played them.
yeah.
We haven't scored against them in a long time.
It's the first goal we scored this season for sure.
Yeah, and I think even going to last season, I think the last 4 games or something like that. I know we've had
Yeah.
around 50 something attempts on goal before we scored that one.
Yeah, and just I don't think that could have been allowed to go on. You know
No,
what I mean? I think at a certain point, um, those are not the standards, right? And like you can't let a team have this much of an advantage against you. And just if you lose 4 times to these guys, like you enter next season. Well, I mean, first of all, just like to not to take it back to Isak, but like, how does that conversation go in the summer when you're trying to sign him and you're just like, hey, like, come join us, even though Newcastle have beaten us 4 times and finished above us in the league table this season.
that's a
Like,
good point.
it's a little bit harder of a sell. Like, I'm not sure if that would have been like the nail in our coffin or something, but I think it's a better
Taste in their mouth
position.
going into the summer.
Sorry.
It's like a better taste in everyone like in the mouth going into the
Yeah.
summer.
And it's easier because now you can go to Isak and say, if he wants to move, now you can go to Isak and say, hey, look, our floor is Newcastle's ceiling, right? We've had a terrible season and we've still managed to finish above Newcastle, right? So it's just better. It's a bit of a better sell, but also, we're playing at home, final home game of the season, and you want to give kind of the fans a nice like final day out at the Emirates. You want to give the players like at least better vibes for the lap of appreciation. And lastly, I I was worried about the prospect of having to go to Southampton on the final day of the season. needing, at least a draw, but probably a win to like really cement second place. I just, based off these last two performances, especially the first half performances against Newcastle and at Anfield, these
Yeah,
guys are gassed.
yeah, they
Like,
are. Did you see
um,
even Rice or
yeah,
Kivior? Did you see Kivior? Man, he was huffing and puffing.
yeah, and Kivior hasn't even played that much compared to a lot of these guys.
I don't know how Rice
But
did it, man. Rice is a machine.
Rice looked exhausted at
Yeah,
the end. I honestly, I hope that was his last game of the season. He
yeah.
he
Just
does not he does not need to play against Southampton.
put on Jorginho.
Um, hmm?
Play Jorginho.
Yeah, yeah. Play Jorginho. Mourinho.
Marino.
Mourinho. He missed against Newcastle.
He
I
was
don't know
there. I
why.
thought he was at the game. Maybe it was. I don't know.
Yeah,
He was like watching it.
yeah. Hopefully, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a short term thing. But if Marino's available, play him in midfield. But yeah, I think Rice deserves a rest. But yeah, I just think looking at how these guys came out in the last two games, I had a bad feeling that if we had to get a result out at Southampton,
Yeah,
these guys would come out with the same energy level, and then Southampton would, score a goal against us, and we'd be, having to fight back against them. And I don't know. I just the odds weren't great with that, or not the odds, the vibes. The vibes weren't great with that.
yeah,
So yeah, I think it was a big game in those respects where you want to make sure that this team doesn't firmly establish themselves as a bogey team for you. You want to have a good final day of the final home game of the season, and if you can, which we did, wrap up Champions League qualification now. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm glad they did it. Also, kind of another thing I'm taking for the game is we can still scam results, which is really
Love that.
nice. Yeah, because we had less XG than Newcastle did. So
Yeah, Rice's goal. That was a great goal.
yeah,
Great goal. I mean, I knew when he was teeing that up. I'm like, this is a goal right now. Watch, boom. He's like he's just one of the most technical players on our team. Like
yeah.
low key, one of the most technical players on our team. If not, no, I don't know. Maybe the most technical player on our team. Odegaard is pretty damn technical, but
yeah,
he's deceptively technical player.
Yeah. Well, I just think Rice probably has the best ball striking on the team right now.
Right now, yeah. I don't know what happened to Saka. Saka has forgot how to score goals, I think, maybe. But
yeah,
I think he's got to be exhausted, the guy. So, like,
yeah,
double team constantly,
and I don't think he's at full fitness.
No,
yeah, I think Saka rushed back for the Real Madrid game, and then now just has kind of been doing this thing where he's playing because we don't really have any other options, but he's just kind of like finding ways to get through the game without like overexerting himself.
Right.
Which is fine because again, like who else are you going to play there?
Do not hurt yourself, Saka. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Like outside of Saka, who are you going to play there? Wineri, Sterling, maybe Martinelli.
I'd rather play there than Sterling.
Like, what was really funny? So Arteta was subbing on like Tierney and Jorginho like to kind of do their farewells at the Emirates. Sterling did not get off.
No. He was cleaning up the locker room.
No one wants to say goodbye to that guy, and not because we want him to stay.
No, honestly, look, at the end of the day, like he's never like said anything bad. He's never been like, he's never like had a bad attitude. It seems like he's gone on and done. He's just not good anymore.
Yeah,
it's gone. It's gone. Like I think the stuff that he had that was really made him a special player is not there, and I think that mentality wise, I think it just never recovered from that. I think maybe a different player could maybe overcome that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's something completely physical and it's just not, because it's just not the same player anymore.
Yeah. So Hand of Arsenal tweeted a while back. This is during the whole kind of media backlash against Lewis Skelly for his that rescinded red card at Wolves.
Okay.
And so Hand of Arsenal tweets something to the effect of, you know, having Raheem Sterling around is like this is where he's earning his paycheck. You know, where he's like there for Lewis Skelly to deal with something that Sterling has dealt with several times throughout his career, and he's there to kind of
Oh,
advise him
interesting.
and get him through that.
So he's
And I
like
thought
he's like a life coach.
basically, you know, just like Raheem Sterling is someone who's been targeted by the English media for fairly
That's
inoffensive
an
things.
interesting take.
Yeah. Um, and so I don't think that necessarily makes up for his on-pitch performances this season, but I
Well,
do think,
we have Saka for that. Saka was targeted,
yeah,
and he's a
yeah,
young
but
player. I think he'd be more relatable than Sterling, who's like, yeah, I remember playing against Arsene Wenger, and it's like that's not relatable.
yeah, but I will say I think Raheem Sterling just kind of the figure he is in the zeitgeist for English footballers and black English footballers.
Hmm.
I think having him around during that time to just be like, hey, like
Yeah, you're right.
just
You're right.
keep your head down. Like these guys are just going to try to find a headline wherever they can,
Mm.
stuff like that. Like I think that is useful. Again, doesn't make up for the complete lack of production that he had on the pitch.
That's kind of what I'm
But
getting at. That's why I'm like, we have Saka who got all that and still came back and
yeah,
was a baller, But like, I guess it doesn't hurt to have that. I mean, we're really, really like rationalizing Sterling here right now
well, I mean, I
because
like
because
you
because
know,
really, really, what we're saying here is there's got to be something that he's bringing to the side versus the alternative, which is equally as likely that he's bringing absolutely nothing.
well, I mean, like it's not a saving grace for Arsenal because it's not like they knew when they
Right.
signed Sterling and made him get on camera and say you're about to see the best of me
Oh,
that that like this was all going to happen and that Sterling would be, a helpful locker room guy to have. So this isn't me saying that, oh well, Arsenal actually were really smart to sign Sterling. No. Like this was still a
no, I
bad
know.
signing.
Yeah, yeah. It's rationalization on the highest order potentially, which is fine. It's part of the coping
Yeah.
with the reality of maybe one of the worst signings we've made in the in the Emirates era, certainly.
Yeah.
Not financially, but just in terms of like the nothingness of it. Um,
Well,
and
just
like
the
compared to the player that he used to be, and like what we should have done on that, what we needed, and then what we actually got. Like,
yeah.
if you take all those factors, it's like the worst.
Well,
It's bad.
that's the thing. The opportunity cost of
Right.
signing Sterling, I think, really killed us this year
Yeah.
because we can say that injuries and refereeing decisions were part of why the season went the way it did, and they are. But I think another aspect of it is the fact that we were supposed to acquire more firepower this summer, and we signed a guy who objectively did nothing for us. And not only that, we were stuck with him on the books, on the bench, in the roster, and we could not, you know, we couldn't replace him with someone midway through the season, right? I'm pretty sure. I want to say it was like Sam Dean, but it was someone. It was someone reliable came out and said that there wasn't like a cancellation clause in Sterling's loan agreement with us. So, having Sterling cost us the opportunity to maybe in January, go get a Marcus Rashford, go get a Marco Asensio, go, maybe commit a few more pounds to Ollie Watkins, right? I still think we could have gotten creative. We could have, maybe cut Neto and said, fuck it. If Raya goes down, we're screwed anyway. Uh, but we didn't do that. So I do think that was the opportunity cost with Sterling, and
Yeah. Yeah. It was bad.
that's the thing. Kind of on the transfer front, there's news going around that Trossard apparently his situation is an open one, and Berta is kind of getting ready to maybe discuss an extension with him. Would you extend Trossard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
How come?
I think that he off the bench, he's definitely offers something.
Yeah.
I think Trossard's a great player. I think there's times when he went missing this season, but I mean, there's times when Odegaard went missing this season. There's times where, even Saliba in certain instances, had his mistakes. Obviously, you can count them on one hand, but he's a player that I think offers something, particularly off the bench. He's a great squad player. He knows the way that Arteta plays football, and I think that I think he sees the writing on the wall. If we're going to sign a left winger, like, where am I going to play? Like, Martinelli is clearly ahead of him in the pecking order. But if there's a way that we can keep him and keep him happy, I think that we should absolutely do it because that depth of, because he's versatile too. He's played various places. I think that he's very good in that regard. So if you have depth of, let's just say, kind of would love to sign like a Nico Williams. So let's say you have Nico Williams, Martinelli, and Trossard that could slot in various places as a utility player off the bench. Do it if you can make it happen.
Well, I mean, I think we've just been in a situation in the past of not having enough attackers.
Yeah.
And for a change, I'd like to see us have too many attackers. Like, remember the days where, we had Henry starting, and then we had Van Persie and Adebayor and Walcott, and one season Julio Baptista. Like, we could pull 5 strikers off the bench if we were chasing a lead.
Yeah,
and
like
just
3 keepers off the bench at one point too.
Yeah. So I kind of want to go back to those days in that regard. And you see it with, like City and Liverpool. Like, these guys have attackers for days as well. So even in situations where they're relatively injury hit, they've still got a good amount of talent that they can rely on.
That's the thing. That is the biggest thing that I've been saying, is that when you need goal scorers on the bench, you need goal scorers all over the pitch, but like particularly on your bench, you need someone that, if you need to rotate or someone needs to come and make an impact, you have something. Because not only just because goals win matches, like that's such a truism, but like the other team needs to worry about conserving energy against your starters because you have someone that can come off the bench that's just as dangerous. You need to have that mental effect on the opposition teams. And I think a player like Trossard and Martinelli, they would do that, especially, that we don't have anyone on the right side, but that's different story. They figure, I could just go all out guarding Saka because there's no one else coming up. Sterling, please, let's do it. Let's wear this guy out as much as we can, and then we could rest when Sterling comes on. But like, we can't, we need to have I need to take it easy, which will leave openings in defenses because, oh gosh, you're gonna have Nico. I have to defend against Nico Williams, and then Martinelli's going to come off the bench, or I'm going to defend against Saka, and then whoever we sign there that's not Sterling comes off the bench.
No, I think I think you need to bring in that guy who's going to make teams think twice about double teaming Saka.
Yeah.
And I like Trossard, I like Martinelli. Neither of those guys are that. But I wouldn't mind. Personally, I wouldn't mind having both of them on the team again. Like, I want to have a pretty full room of attackers. But we'll see what happens in that regard. I guess I'll ask you this question: would you sell? If you had to sell one of them, would you sell Martinelli or Trossard?
Trossard.
Trossard?
Yeah. As much as I think Martinelli is kind of a one-dimensional footballer in many ways, and he's gotten a little better, but he's still very one-dimensional in my opinion. I think that Trossard, first of all, just age profile-wise, there's still room for improvement with Martinelli. And he is, I think we know, the fastest person on the team. So that's something, like, Trossard doesn't have the most X in the squad, like superlative, right? And that's not coming from me. Other players, when they were interviewing players about who's the fastest, everyone says Martinelli. And we know it. We just see he's rapid. So I think that's not really something you can train, and it's always a good option to have that in your back pocket. if that makes sense. There's like a superlative that Martinelli has that Trossard doesn't.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the same boat because, again, as much as I like Trossard, I like Martinelli more as like a late game sub. You know what I
Right.
mean? Where like if we sign a Nico Williams, or if like reports are suggesting we're interested in, if we signed an Anthony Gordon or something like that,
Okay.
right? Imagine 65, 70 minutes against one of those two guys, and
Yeah.
then they come off and Martinelli comes on. Like if you're a right back, you're just saying to yourself, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what I was getting at, like before, where I'm saying like there is a psychological impact about going up against a player, knowing who's going to be coming off the bench. You'd have so just imagine you would have, when you were preparing for this match, you're watching videos of them. You played against them before, maybe, like that's always looming in the back of your head as a defender of like, who is the alternative here? Like, you have a job against Saka, which is hard enough, but then that there's this other job that that you have to do later on in the game, potentially.
Yeah.
Or it just does something different to how you approach the game.
Well, also, right, like because the number of hamstring injuries are going up in the game, and that I think is kind of correlating to the number of sprints that players are required to do. And so I think if you are a fullback and you're up against Nico Williams or Anthony Gordon, knowing that Gabriel Martinelli is probably going to come off the bench near the end of the game,
right?
I think you're thinking to yourself like,
shit,
I have to figure out a way to not blow out my hamstrings.
Yes. You're going to say, I need to take it a little bit easy. Maybe I can't go full blast defending Nico Williams, or hopefully whoever we sign. I can't go full blast double teaming Saka because you have this amazing player coming up on the bench that's not Sterling. So like, that is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Or like, I can't be bombing up the pitch and then, chasing back after these guys on the counter 18 times a game, right?
Or you can, and it's a big mistake, and then we eat you up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Like I want pace. I want pace in the team, and Trossard doesn't really offer pace. He's not slow, but he's not a guy who blows open games because of how fast he is.
Martinelli can do that.
Yeah. So last thing, and then we'll wrap it up here because I know you've been going a little long. Yeah. We also have been linked to. Well, I'll throw Gordon in here. So links have emerged recently. One of them is from what's his name? Team News and Tickets. Who his reliability has kind of been hit and miss recently.
Yeah.
And then the other, I forget who linked us, but there was also the other one is the link to Anthony Gordon. But TNAT reported as well that we were inquiring about Brian Mbeumo.
Ooh.
And so those are really two different players. They operate on different sides of the pitch. But I personally like the idea of it because Mbeumo, I think, is a guy who can play across the front line, right wing, left wing, and I think also he'd be a pretty good false nine at the very least. And he's a guy who allows us to kind of rotate Saka. I was talking about with a few friends, and one of them mentioned the idea of you could give Odegaard a rest, and then you could kind of play Saka as the right 8, and then Brian Mbeumo as the right wing. Which I do think would work. I think Saka's recent tendency to drift into very central areas.
Yeah.
I think he's looked very good there. So I do think that is an interesting option. I do expect that Arteta is going to make some sort of evolution of that kind in the team next season. But then on the flip side, you also have this Anthony Gordon link. So I kind of wonder if we're going to see more than 2 attacking signings this summer. And then obviously that would mean that someone's leaving, because I think at that point that'd be too many people. But what do you make of those 2 links? And Do you think they're particularly feasible or not?
That's a great question, and I'm looking up something about Anthony Gordon real quick. I'm trying to look at what they have his market value at. 65 million.
The report said that Newcastle would probably ask for around 80.
80 million. That's a lot.
Yeah.
For someone with what 12 goals and assists total across 33 matches and over 20, let me see, 2,400 minutes. I mean, age profile wise, he's what, 24 years old, so he's like around Martinelli. How old is Martinelli actually?
I think Martinelli's 23, so he's like a year older.
He's around the same age as Martinelli, around that similar profile. And let me see something real quick. I'm learning in real time because I never really considered it, so I want to kind of be informed on just one thing at least. Mm-hmm. And just put in perspective, Martinelli played 200 less minutes and has the same amount of goal contributions, except 8 goals, 4 assists.
Yeah.
Right? Am I looking at that right?
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think Gordon is a much better player than Martinelli, but I think the thing that Gordon has over Martinelli is kind of like, well, I just think he's a little bit more inventive. Again, Martinelli kind of is I feel like his thinking on the flank is a little one-dimensional, a little one-track. Yep. I think Gordon is willing to try different things, and he's willing to go at his man in different ways. But also, I think Gordon does things with more conviction than Martinelli does. And a little bit more directness as well. I feel like whenever I watch Gordon, he's always trying to like get to goal somehow, right? Even if that involves him going out wide and then crossing in. I feel like he always is trying to like figure out a way to get into the middle of the box.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of a direct play. I feel like he brings, like, I'll tell you who does that out of the two. That's kind of like what Trossard does a lot. Mm-hmm. But I have noticed Martinelli has been more willing to try to beat the man on the inside and then get the cross in, or right on the outside of the man. I mean, so like he used to like go in there and then he would dribble, and either go into a blind alley or then come back and cut back and then try to score. But now he's definitely doing that thing, which I think he's being told to do, is where he'll be on the outside of a player and he'll kick the ball and then he'll run around and beat him with his pace.
Yeah.
That's something that I think that he does very well. So I don't know. I don't like, here's the way I see it. Do I see Gordon as a big upgrade to Trossard or Martinelli? Not super. That's my thing.
No, I mean, I think he's really good. I think what Gordon it represents is maybe you're going up a few percentage points in terms of the strengths that you have with Martinelli.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I think that's what you'd be doing. And, maybe you can make an argument that like those fine margins are worth 80 million pounds. Personally, if we're signing a player from Newcastle, I want it to be Isak, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it'd be like if we didn't sign Isak and we said Gordon instead, it would be like kind of really underwhelming, I feel like, unless we go and sign like Gokaris or someone.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I think if we brought in Gordon, like we're definitely not getting both Gordon and Isak, but if we were to sign Gordon, then I think we would be getting like Gyökeres or Šeško or someone, right, to play that center forward role. But
I will still call him Gokaris. Like I can't get out of it. I've called that him since the beginning before I knew how to pronounce it, and now it's like I can't stop saying it. It's like I sound like ridiculous, but it's Gyökeres.
I had no idea how to pronounce his name until like 3 months ago.
Yeah. And
But
every
yeah,
time I said it, I felt like Dragon Ball Z in my head, like Goku or something. I don't know. Go Kieras.
I will say, if we were to sign like Mbomo and Yakarez, or sorry, not Yakarez, if we were to sign Mbomo and Gordon, I guess maybe Yakarez or maybe some other like center forward, I suddenly feel way better about the amount of goals we're able to score in a season.
Yeah.
Because if you add Saka and Mbumo
Right.
and Yakarez and Havertz and Gordon and Martinelli, that is
That's
pretty good.
firepower.
Yeah, that's a lot of firepower. So we'll see. I mean, I think the main thing I take from those links is
that we'll sign 3 left backs.
maybe. But yeah, apparently we do want a left back. But
yeah, of course we do. Of course we do. That's Arteta's fetish.
But the main thing I do take is that we are very serious about bringing in quality to the front line this summer. And if that's 3 players, amazing. If it's 2 players, I'm still very happy with that. Right, yeah. 2 players of that level of quality, who, by the way, are proven in the Premier League. Right, I don't think that's something to be sniffed at. I think that's the removal of a pretty big risk factor. I think it's just an indication, hopefully, of positive things to come, and it makes me willing to kind of wait and see how things go at this summer.
Yeah.
Just like we were talking about before, Arteta's coming out and telling the club, make sure the guys upstairs go out there and do their jobs and bring in some players. You have Josh Kroenke, promising us in a statement on the Arsenal website that they're going to go out and invest in this team. You have, all of these links to, really, really impressive players. There have only been a couple guys that we've been linked to who I've, really been underwhelmed by. And most of those links have come from not the most reputable sources, right?
Right.
Just, the vibes right now are that we are going to try to do something serious in the market. And
3 left.
That's what I'm asking for. Go do some serious stuff in the market. Like you said, go out there and do the thing.
Do the thing.
So we'll leave it there. You've been a real trooper.
Yeah.
Because we've gone over an hour here. So make sure you follow John at 305cast on Twitter and at yellowribbons.bsky.social on Blue Sky. I'm Sham. You can follow me on Twitter at Shamsdale. You can follow me on Blue Sky at shamsdale.bsky.social. And follow the pod on Twitter at NotThatGooner and on Blue Sky at NotThatGooner.bsky.social. You can also follow us on Instagram at NotThatKindOfGooner. You can subscribe to us at YouTube. On YouTube at Not That Kind of Gooner. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please do leave us a 5-star review. It really does help get the pod out there in front of more people and expand our audience. So, thank you so much for being here with us. And, as we do round the corner here and close out the season, I just want to say, thanks to those of you who've been with us since we started. I know we started halfway through the season. But we're looking forward to our first full season with you guys after the summer, and we will be keeping on with the content over the summer, so stay tuned for that. In any event, we will hopefully be back with something later on this week. More on that to come, but if we're not, we will talk to you after Arsenal annihilate Southampton. So until then, take care. And bye. Bye.
Secret Gooner. All right, I'm a Gooner. Oh, I love you.
All right. 1 minute to go. Here's the little man here, Santi Cazorla. Shaka! That is a goal! Eric.